Hello, ladies. I was really inspired by my coaching call with two of you today, and a few themes came up. And one of the themes that we talked about was beauty. So I wanted to elaborate on beauty. So, admiration of things that are beautiful and the impulse to create things that are beautiful for beauty's sake beyond utility or need is, I feel, what makes us human and also what separates us from animals. I know there's that expression that beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but I do think there's something about beauty that's universal. I think that we immediately recognize beauty. I think that as humans, we immediately recognize beauty. We know beauty, we can see, we immediately recognize, we we immediately recognize beauty, beautiful movement, symmetry, and proportion. But beauty is far more than skin deep. We recognize beauty in others when we get a glimpse of their spirit. I just wanted to read to you some things that come to mind when I think of what beauty is, and particularly what is beautiful for us in this stage of life, how we can access our beauty. Beauty is when we're actually strong enough to be vulnerable. It's when we're confident enough to speak our truth. It's when our spirit shines through. Our spirit shines through when we have done the work to clear the clutter from those dark corners in our minds. It's when our chi is flowing. It's when we have access to our higher self. The more we take care of ourselves, the more beautiful we become. It's our right. It is our right. Knowing that we are worthy of self-care is beautiful. Knowing that we are worthy of listening, our own listening. Beauty is accepting what we are capable of. Beauty is knowing our limits, knowing our limitations that we accept. Beauty is meeting our limitations with acceptance rather than feeling lost or inadequate. We are beautiful when we understand. We are beautiful when we recognize our limitations and we meet that with acceptance rather than feelings of inadequacy. Hello. Inspired by my talk with two of you today, I wanted to talk about doing the work. What is the work? There's so much work to do. Oh my goodness. Tell me about it. The work that I'm talking about though now is, I'm going to call it the corners count. So in my conversation with one of you today, we were talking about cleaning, housekeeping. In my conversation with two of you today, housekeeping came up. And I know you've heard me talk before about chi and how I think about everything as energy. Well, we kind of applied that to our discussion today about housekeeping. So doing the work, when we're cleaning the house, the corners count. Why? Because it's those corners. Let's just start out by saying sometimes it's easy for us to see what's right in front of us, right in our path. Sometimes it's not. But usually those things in our path are more apparent. So when we take care of the corners in the house and in our minds, we go beyond what's obvious. The corners are like the dark places. The corners are like the corners are like the dark places that are unpenetrated by consciousness. It's important for us to shine the light on the corners and to declutter them. It's also important for us to look at what we find in those corners. Not to brush them under the carpet, not to brush the dirt under the carpet, but to actually take a look at what is in there. Is it a Lego? Is it an earring? Is it a piece of trash? These things that seem small and that are at the borders of our consciousness may not actually be small. They might just be at the borders of our consciousness because we've not wanted to deal with them. But those things at the border of our consciousness may actually be what is keeping the elephant in the room. So I invite you to look in your corners and see what you find. You could find a beautiful gold earring that was missing. Or you could find some trash. Either of them is important to look at. Both of them are important to look at before you get rid of them. So today, your job is to clean up some of your corners. Those can be actual corners in your house, on your desk, in your car, and while you're cleaning those corners, think about the corners of your consciousness and what's lurking in those corners. What can you shine a light on today? It takes courage, and you've got it. Today, I have a quick little thought for you that came up while I was talking to two of you. And I'm going to title this one, When to Push Forward and When to Drop the Oars. So here we are trying to penetrate our bodies, minds, and hearts with consciousness. We are trying to change ourselves. We are trying to change with our change. We are trying to take responsibility, coming off of autopilot, being in the present, accepting our circumstances, accepting ourselves, using any dissatisfaction as a springboard into responsibility and action for how we can create change. But we also have to respect our limits. We have to respect our limits and when it's time to say no to somebody else. We have to respect our limits when it's time to say no to us too, when enough is enough. Because there's a point at which self-improvement can be so all-encompassing that the returns become diminishing. So we have to know how much we can lean into discomfort in order to go past our limitations and how much to push forward and when to rest. Again, there's that fine line between complacency and stagnation. And there's a fine line between overdoing it and progress. How do we tune in and how do we develop discernment about when to push forward and when to rest? I suggest that you get present with yourself, look yourself in the eye in the mirror, and talk about what is going on for you. Ask yourself, how am I feeling in this moment? Tune into your body. How does your body feel? The first answer is usually the right one. So today, I want you to tune in to your body right now. Are there any questions that you have about what's essential